everyone, it's Sarah. Welcome back to my channel, Tara Talks Books, where we talk everything bookish. So today I'm going to be doing a collab video. This one is on Bad A heroines. So this one is actually an idea from Beccie over at Bex Reads. I will leave her channel in the description box below, as well as a playlist of everybody who is creating these videos and a part of the collab. I believe there's about 20 of us. So go ahead and check out their videos. I'll leave everything in the description box below so you guys can check it out. But without further ado, let's see what I chose. So the first one I chose is A Matter of Temptation by Stacey Reed. And this one just sticks out to me as a really amazing character, a really amazing heroine, is because Mina ended up making like a foolish mistake when she was young, which kind of ruined her reputation. And she's been living in the country kind of a bit isolated, only with her brother, and like her family is her father has passed away and her mother has passed away, and her brother is in control of the family and is kind of financially in ruin. And her brother makes another mistake and he gets involved in a duel, and she thinks, and she actually really knows who he's up against is a really good like dueler, and so she feels like he's gonna like get himself killed. So she ends up tricking him with the help of some of their like house staff, and she sneaks away and goes to the duel for him. So she ends up besting the Earl of Creswick, or Simon, in this duel and winning over winning for her brother. And things kind of go from there because the Earl the Earl knows that it ends up being a woman, and he's very intrigued by her, and it kind of goes from there. He ends up offering her a job. The story goes on, and Mina kind of grows as a person. She kind of comes more out of her shell, and she really, there's an event that happens in the book that kind of forces her to kind of look at her life and realize she just wants to start living it again. She feel like once this scandal happened, she kind of just tucked away to the country and didn't really live her life to the fullest. So I really enjoyed that aspect of Mina's character, and it just shows what a strong person she is and how she realizes this. I also think there is a situation at the end. I won't say too much because I don't want to spoil anything. It is a romance, a historical romance, so you kind of know how it's going to end. There is going to be an HEA, but she ends up putting Simon's needs in front of her own, and like his dreams in front of her own, because she really just wants to see him be successful. So she does something that is going to hurt both of them by like pushing him away and saying, no, this can't happen, because she really just wants what's best for him. And I just thought that was just shows a really strong character. So anyways, this is an excellent book. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. Another one I have is actually a pretty recent read as well, and that one is The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. And so this one is about a bodyguard. Hannah is a bodyguard to Jack, and Jack is a star. They end up fake dating because he's going back to his small hometown in Texas, I believe, and they're staying on like his ranch, but he has a stalker, and he doesn't really want to put any more like concern or pressure on his family. Something happened, his mom is sick, and so he just wants not to know that he has a bodyguard. So they kind of fake date in that instance to protect him. And there is a scene in the beginning that is quite fun. They end up meeting each other. She comes to his house, and he like mistakes somebody that works within the house, something like that, and she's like, no, I'm your bodyguard. And he like kind of looks at her because she's small. I mean, physical stature compared to him, she is shorter, she is leaner, you know, she's small. And so he's like, how are you going to protect me? And she's like, well, here are my credentials. And she like lists them off, and he's like, you can do that? And she's like, yeah, I can show you if you want. And so she does, and she ends up planting him on his back, and he's like, wow, okay. So I just really like that aspect of it. It was fun. She kind of knows how she's looked at as like a bodyguard in this instance, because she is a female bodyguard. So like they kind of look at her like she is not capable, but she definitely is. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Anyways, so it kind of goes from there. They learn more about each other. And it's just a really beautiful book. And I really think that Hannah is a strong heroine. The next one I have is Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. This one is like a Rumpelstiltskin retelling or reimagining. And this one has Miriam, and she's the daughter and granddaughter of moneylenders. But her father has like an inability to collect his debts, which has left his family on the edge of poverty. And so Miriam finds herself in these circumstances and does something about it. She ends up taking over for her father and going around and collecting the debts to try and help her family. So she ends up gaining a reputation of being able to turn silver into gold, brings attention to the King of the Stark, which are like grim fey creatures. And it's almost like an impossible mission for her. And she ends up recruiting two other characters that are also, I believe, like stronger women. I really enjoyed Miriam's character as like a really awesome heroine and very capable. And then the other heroine is Wanda, and she is a peasant girl within Miriam's like town, and Miriam offers her a job kind of helping her when she, I think, is taken away to the kingdom, or right before, something like that, because Wanda is taking care of her, I believe, her little brother, because their dad is very abusive, and I can't remember if he's like an alcoholic and abusive, but something like that. So these circumstances are thrust upon these two girls, and they are forced to kind of make decisions to help their families. And so they do. And I really enjoyed, like I said, Miriam and Wanda's characters. There's a third girl, I believe her name is Irina. And I did like her, but I felt Wanda and Miriam were just the real true, if we're talking about bad A characters, those are the two that I would think of, just because the circumstances they have been dealt. Irina has been dealt circumstances that aren't good as well, and she does try to help, but Miriam and Wanda really just show that they can survive anything, and that's why I chose them for this collab. So the next character that I thought about when I was thinking about this collab was Elsa from The Four Winds by Kristin Hannah. This book is set mostly during the Great Depression, Dust Bowl era. Elsa actually lives in Texas, where the Dust Bowl is happening, and they can't get crops to grow. They're basically starving, and the wind and the dry like dust and land is getting into their lungs, because they have these big, like I said, dust bowls, and they kind of like have to hunker down in their house, and they're covered in sand. And so they're surviving through this. And to go back though a little bit, sorry, it does start off in the Roaring 20s. Elsa is basically considered too old to wed during that time. She's kind of forgotten about by her family and looked down on. But one day she meets a young gentleman, and her reputation gets ruined, and she kind of is forced to marry him because of circumstances. And so her family disowns her, and she goes and she lives with his family, and they have children, and they're trying to survive the Great Depression and Dust Bowl. As they're trying to survive this, Elsa finds out that her son, because he's breathing in this dust, he's getting very sick. She goes to the doctor, and he basically says, doesn't stop breathing in the dust, he's going to die. So she packs up her family, and she moves to California in search of work. But of course, it's during this era of the Great Depression. It's hard to find work. And anybody, they were called migrant workers during this time, anybody who came in, people would kind of look at poorly or look down on them because of it, even though they're just trying to, again, find jobs. And Elsa was literally just trying to provide for her family and like get her child well. And so a lot of things happen because they end up having to live in an encampment. People attempt to like steal things from them, and she's really trying to work in conditions that just are horrible. And so she's just really trying and putting in all this effort to survive and give her children the best life that they possibly could during this time. And so I just felt like that Elsa, again, is a bad A heroine because of that, because she really puts her family first and tries to support them as best as she can. So the next one I thought of was Nej and Nina from Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This is a duology. They are in both of them, and both of the heroines are strong. So Nina is, I believe she's a heartrender, and she's able to use magic, and she is using magic basically to survive like the city she lives in, because the city they live in is very cutthroat. And so she's trying to survive, and she's using magic to do that. And then there's also Inej, and Inej is a spy for like almost like a gang that Kazbrecker, who's like the leader, runs. And so she's working as a spy for him. And you can just tell like she's really capable. I believe, I can't remember exactly, but I think she's either looking for her family or she's lost her family. And I think she was like taken when she was young, and so she's just trying to survive, and she's able, like, again, they're both able to survive this cutthroat world that they have been thrust in. And this is a YA, so they are younger, and they're just trying to survive. And I just think both of the characters are strong in that instance, so I felt like both of them fit as bad A heroines, especially since Nina has magic, and like she really tries to use it and harness it. And then Inej is just like, she has this talent of a spy. She's very like sneaky, and she, in the book, she like is able to like walk on roofs, and she's almost like acrobatic in how she does it. And then like she has a set of knives, and like I just think it was really cool. So I thought that worked for this one. So when I was thinking of other heroines, I thought of Clean Sweep by Lona Andrews. So Dina lives in a small Texas town, and she runs an inn, like a small bed and breakfast. There's just a little bit of differences with her bed and breakfast. One, it is sentient, and two, she wields a broom that is deadly. So there's definitely magic within this book, and something is happening within this small town. Something is at first harming the pets of the town, and then it starts potentially trying to attack the people of the town. And so Dina notices this, and she honestly thinks at first it's the new werewolf that moved into town, and she ends up like addressing it with him, and he's like, no, it's not me. So they kind of team up, and they're trying to figure out like what is happening. And so it ends up being like an otherworldly being with like claws and sharp teeth, and it's like running amok in this town. And the reason that I picked Dina is simply because one, she uses her magic and she's strong, and she's been running this inn for otherworldly creatures for a long time. And she was running it with her family at one point, but her family went missing, and so she's kind of taken it over on her own. And then, like I said, she ends up trying to figure out how to get rid of this otherworldly creature that is attacking her small town. And she ends up fighting one in a Costco, which I thought was a really cool scene, and I enjoyed it. So I feel like she really fits as a bad A heroine. So when I was thinking of heroines for this, I also thought of Marin from A Ship of Bones and Teeth by Karina Halley. So this book is like a reimagining or retelling of The Little Mermaid with a little bit of Pirates of the Caribbean, as it's set on the high seas. So it's a really fun book in that instance. I enjoyed that. But I chose Marin because Marin is a siren, and she ended up being tricked because she was very young into selling her soul and her voice to the Sea Witch for the love of Prince Eric on land. But Prince Eric ends up being extremely cruel, and she ends up living this life she really doesn't want to live. And an opportunity comes about for her to escape and maybe like try and reverse the spell and go back to the ocean to her family, when her and Eric are taken captive by Captain Batista. So he ends up taking them and actually trying to ransom them for money. And so it goes from there, and this dark side that has always kind of been in Marin because she's a siren starts to come out, and she starts to kind of grow and develop into herself and who she is, and realizing again that she wasn't this meek or weak person. That was just kind of what Prince Eric thought she was. And so it goes from there, and it just shows her development and her finding herself again after years of like this cruel abuse that she dealt with at the hands of Eric. And so and you start to see her come into her own. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And it kind of brings her back to like her roots of being a siren. And sirens are basically men eaters. They eat the hearts of men. So but it is ultimately a romance too between her and Captain Bautista. So I really enjoyed this one, and I really think that Marin is a really amazing heroine, and she definitely is strong and capable, and I really just liked her character development within this book. The next book I chose is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. And that is because Chloe lives with a chronic illness that causes her pain. And she really just has to have like emotional strength to deal with that. And then also the premise of the book is that small incident happens, and like Chloe's life flashes before her eyes, and she realizes like, oh, there's nothing in it. So she kind of makes changes within her life. She ends up moving out of her parents' house into her own apartment and creating this list of things she wants to do, because she's kind of been holding herself back on things. And so I just think that like throughout this book, she kind of harnesses her life, and she's still going to forever live with this chronic illness, but she doesn't let it control her life or put limits on it. So I really liked that aspect of this book, and it really makes her like a strong heroine. And so I really enjoyed this book. It was my favorite of the Brown Sisters trilogy. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. The next one I have comes from Reaper from A. Zabarelli, and that one is Sasha. Sasha is an amazing heroine because she has been through a lot. So this is a mafia romance. The male character is like the enforcer of the mafia, that's Ronan, and then Sasha works for like at a club at the mafia, and so like she's really trying to work there to support her mom. Her mom is ailing. There's things happening, medical bills and all that she's trying to help her with. And then something happens to her. She basically is forced to do something by somebody else. And I believe Ronan catches the person that is forcing her. It's not the first time, but he caught him in the act, and it finally like triggered something in him. But the reason that Sasha, I believe, is brave heroine, one, because she's working and she's trying to support her mother, and then obviously there's going to be some trauma from this event that happened, and she really tries to almost like trust Ronan and open herself back up to a relationship. And I thought that was very well depicted in this, and I enjoyed Sasha's character, and I really think that she's a bad A heroine because of that. And the last one I chose is Sadie by Courtney Summers, and this one is a YA. So Sadie hasn't had an easy life growing up. Her mom hasn't really supported her or helped her. She's been in and out of either addiction or jail or something like that. And so she's really been raising her younger sister, Maddie, in like an isolated small town. And she's really just trying her best to help one, live a normal life and help her sister, you know, grow and develop. And she's just kind of keeping her head above water, trying to survive. And then an event happens, and Maddie is found dead, and that kind of triggers something in Sadie. So Maddie is murdered, and it's like the investigation gets messed up, and the person who is responsible for killing Maddie evades justice. And so like he gets off and he walks away, and that humbles her world even deeper. And so she ends up going out for revenge and trying to find this person and exact revenge for Maddie. And so it goes from that, and she does one, her life is already hard enough and she's dealing with this, and then she's surviving that, and then Maddie dies, and she's trying to survive just that grief. And then, like I said, he gets off and she goes after him. Close to Maddie's killer, she has to be resourceful. And so that just makes me think like, oh, she is truly like a bad A heroine. You definitely like keep turning the pages to figure out what happens to Cady. And it definitely is a hard book to read. There's definitely tons of trigger warnings in it, but it is a really good book and I did enjoy it. And I feel like Cady deserves a spot on the Bad A Heroines list. So those are all 10 of my Bad A heroines. You know, if you have any suggestions in the box below for some amazing heroines, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like and subscribe if you'd like to. Bye.